Hey guys, it's Living for Shy. I just wanted to welcome you all back to my channel. In this video today, I plan on doing a reality postpartum truth that no one really talks about. I know I watched a lot of videos before I had my baby, and I really wanted to know how it was going to be after having a baby instead of all the fluff and all the cute pictures and all that good stuff. I know that I am getting a lot of questions from a lot of my friends asking how it is after having a baby, how breastfeeding is going, all that stuff, and I'm going to share all of that in this video today with you guys. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video. Stay tuned to the end if you want to see my postpartum snapback or hear about my own personal weight loss. So without further ado, keep on watching. So first things first, I'm going to go back to after I had my baby. A lot of people talk about the pressing on your stomach afterwards. I guess they say that it's really painful. From my personal experience, it didn't hurt me. They did it to me like every few hours and it didn't hurt, but I also was on painkillers. They did that right after I had my baby and I went to the bathroom. My mom and the nurse that I was with came in with me. One, because I couldn't really walk that well, and then two, because I needed help with sitting. So when I actually sat down, she told me I had to pee and I had to poop. I could not poop, so I just peed, and it burned like shit, I'm not gonna lie to you. And the only thing that helped to ease the burning was this bottle. They sprayed my vag with this bottle of warm water as I was peeing, and that helped a lot with the burning, but it still hurt like really bad. And when I was done, she gave me a new gown, and I went and I laid back down, and she gave me painkillers. I was given 800 milligrams of ibuprofen every 3 hours, and I was given narco every 2 hours or whenever I needed it. And so that's pretty much how that went. You have a labor and delivery suite, and then you have your postpartum suite. Your labor and delivery is obviously you have the baby there, and the postpartum portion is where you recover, you're giving painkillers, you spend time with your baby, you have family come visit, all that good stuff. So when I went to the postpartum unit, they gave me this big bag of stuff. I don't have all of it anymore because I did use all of it. But in the bag, it came with like almost like puppy pads, I guess to lay on for bleeding. They gave me a peri bottle. They gave me, which is that bottle I just showed. They gave me Dermaplast, which is a numbing spray. And they gave me a ton of pads. So when I got to the postpartum suite, I actually was given these things called diaper sickles. My nurse made this hack. It was like a diaper, and you put ice inside of the diaper, and you put that inside of your pad, and it basically helps with swelling, because I did bruise a lot after I had my baby, and so I needed all the cold and, you know, all that good stuff, numbing spray, all of that. So no one ever really talks about how it is when you first get to your room, but even on painkillers and all of that, you're still super sore, and it's super like uncomfortable to lay down, it's uncomfortable to sit, it's uncomfortable to really walk, do much of anything, honestly. The only thing that kind of relieved the pain was the narco that they gave me, but when they give you the narco, it makes you super hazy and almost dizzy. So honestly, it's not a pleasant experience at all. I wouldn't recommend it. As for the other things that they give you after having your baby, the Dermaplast, the pads, all of that, I would suggest before you leave the hospital to ask for extra anything, extra Dermaplast, extra pads, anything like that. Even if you have some at home, I would suggest just bringing the hospital, just because their stuff is like a lot bigger. I wish I had a pad to show you guys, but the pads were like this big. And the Dermaplast, it really helps with after you use the bathroom and you spray that down there, it helps numb and like it's like almost a cooling effect down there, and it helps especially if you tear, or even if you don't tear and you're just really sore after having your baby. It really helps, trust me. So make sure that you ask for anything that they will give you. I know when I left the hospital, they also wrote me a prescription for narco. They wrote me a prescription for Tomadol and a prescription for ibuprofen for about 30 days for each of those. And then they also sent me home with a ton of like stuff to help me poop, because I refused to poop at the hospital. I was just not, it wasn't happening. When I tried to, it almost felt like I was delivering my baby all over again. I was not having it. So they sent me home with Miralax, they sent me home with milk of magnesia, stool softeners, painkillers. Yeah, so they sent me home with all that good stuff, which I was really appreciative for. So another thing, if you do tear, especially the way I tore the opposite direction towards like my buttocks. But if you do tear, they don't suggest that you wipe. They suggest that you use only your peri bottle and you pat dry. You have to do that pretty much. I'm still doing that just because it's super it's super sore still for a while. I'm only 7 weeks postpartum, so it's still kind of uncomfortable, but I'll get into that. But basically, to make sure that you clean well down there, especially because the spray bottle doesn't get everything, they give you this thing called a sitz bath. I know my nurse had me do sitz baths every time I really just needed extra cleaning down there, and this is how it looks. You basically sit in this thing and you fill it with water, warm water, and you sit in it for like 5 to 10 minutes, and basically it helps clean you down there and all that good stuff. They gave me that as well as nipple cream. I really needed the nipple cream, especially with breastfeeding, just because I was still learning how to latch, and your nipples are going to be incredibly sore, especially when you first start breastfeeding, because your baby doesn't know how to breastfeed and you don't know how to breastfeed. Also, no one ever talks about it, but after your baby's born, they're going to be like starving. So, and I know I wasn't making enough milk. The nurses were saying her stomach was like the size of a quarter, but I honestly just couldn't deal with, you know, her being hungry. It gave me anxiety. So I actually was giving her infant formula, which I got so much guilt about, because it was honestly, I really wanted to only exclusively breastfeed her, but I knew that I didn't want to hear her crying and all that, so I really just wanted to give her formula. And so in between giving her formula, I also was giving her my breast milk. I was given a pump issued by the hospital. They gave me like all the flanges, they were all brand new, and they showed me how to use the pump, and I basically was pumping every ounce of my liquid gold that I had to give. They basically would give her all the milk that I had pumped out, and then they would give her formula if she was still hungry. So I pretty much did that the entire time that I was in the hospital. And then when I came home, that's when everything went to shit. So no one really talks about it, but after you have your baby, I don't care what anyone says, you will not be able to sleep. I hear this from people that have had kids before, people that have had kids, and then people that it's not their first kid. Everybody, after you have your baby, even at the hospital, you're just going to want to look at them, and you're going to want to hold them, and you're going to want to get used to being a mom. If you're already a mom, you're going to want to get used to this new baby. Like, I don't care what anyone says, you're not gonna be able to sleep. So I didn't sleep at all in the hospital. I slept maybe a few hours in total. And then when I came home, I still had a lot of anxiety just because I am a first-time mom. So like, I just really refused to sleep. And I will say that if you have any help, whether it be from a partner, from a family member, from a friend, and they offer to watch the baby while you sleep or anything like that, please take the advice or take any help that you can get. So honestly, when I first came home, I was in a lot of pain. I was taking painkillers, but I was so hazy and stuff that I would almost not take them because I didn't want to not be present for my baby, especially whenever I didn't have help during the day. I would need to be present, and so I couldn't really take my painkillers, and that caused like incredible soreness. I have stairs in my house, so going up and down the stairs was just awful. Going to the bathroom every single time was like, I thought it was gonna have an exorcism. It was awful with the burning, with the soreness. Like, it hurt to sit, like it hurt to lay down. It was just super uncomfortable. So someone made a grand appearance on the video. Miss Navi is hungry, so we need to take an intermission. Okay guys, so I'm back. Continuing with the cleaning, every time I took a shower, I would put a Summer's Eve feminine wash inside of my peri bottle, and I would spray down there just to make sure that I was still cleaning myself every time I took a shower whenever I could. But remember guys, after you have your baby, you will not only not be sleeping, but you also won't have time to brush your teeth. You won't have time to do your hair. You won't have time to get dressed. You won't have time to shower, pretty much anything. I would say for probably the first 2 weeks, I know I had a lot of help, but even when your baby throws up on you or when they poop on you, you're going to want to shower, but you might as well forget it. Invest in some wipes, some kind of wipes to clean yourself up, or use plain baby wipes to wipe yourself off. My mom calls them monkey baths, but I call them hoe baths. So like, make sure that you clean yourself well, because you're gonna not be able to shower all the time. And that's something that I wish I had known before I had my baby, just because I was in for a very rude awakening after she was born. So a lot of people also want to know about the bleeding. I know I bled heavy for about 2 weeks after she was born, like heavy, and then it just turned into bleeding here and there. I noticed mostly I bled after I breastfed. I'm not sure if that was a correlation with all the hormones or whatever the case may be. I know when you breastfeed, it makes your uterus go down. It makes your uterus contract, and when your uterus contracts, you're basically pushing more blood out. So that makes a lot of sense, probably why I would bleed after I would breastfeed. But I'm exclusively breastfeeding now, so it causes, I feel like, bleeding still, because I didn't stop bleeding until about a few days ago, and I'm 7 weeks postpartum. So yeah, that was a pretty long time. I asked my doctor, he said it was normal. Right after I came home, I was not able to eat myself. I just didn't have an appetite really. I was so out of it. And I can talk about it now, but I was very emotional. Like, I was wanting to cry like every 5 minutes. Just looking at my baby made me want to cry. Like, I was just super emotional in general. Right after anyone has a baby, they're told to go see their doctor 2 weeks after they deliver to get checked out down there. But my doctor wanted to see me the same week that I had my baby, just because I had tore. Along with being in pain and being uncomfortable and sleep deprived and emotional, and it was just not a pleasant experience. So no one really mentions the anxieties and phobias that you have after having a baby, but I know that I knew that I was going to be psycho over my baby, but I didn't know I was going to be this psycho. When I had her, honestly, I wouldn't let anyone hold her. I wouldn't let anyone kiss her. I still to this day don't even let people kiss her. Like, I don't even kiss her myself. I just have this phobia that she's going to get like sick. And I know that I had spoke with my doctor about it, and they mentioned that it's normal for every mom to have those anxieties, those paranoias, but I didn't know how severe it was. So I was really hard on myself right after having my baby. And I know that something that helped me through a lot of it was talking to people and talking to friends. And your doctor's going to be your best friend through a lot of stuff, because they're going to have to justify your feelings, because otherwise anybody else is going to look at you like, girl, you need to get it together. But honestly, it's pretty bad. Well, I do plan on doing an entire video on just breastfeeding, just because I don't want this video to be crazy long, because my last 2 videos have been extremely long, and I know you guys are probably tired of the super long videos. Yeah, I'm gonna do an entire video on my breastfeeding journey. I'll also be doing a video on postpartum depression and anxiety, because I had a lot of fears when I was pregnant of having postpartum anxiety and depression, and I feel like if you give birth without releasing all those fears of being, in a C-section and pain, tearing, postpartum depression, anxiety, if you don't release those fears, then they're gonna happen to you. One big thing that I would suggest to everyone when healing is stick to a schedule. Every time you use the bathroom, you need to, I know my schedule was, I would use the bathroom and spray with warm water, and then I would pat dry. I would put a pad on, put witch hazel pads or hemorrhoid pads on my pad, and then I would spray dermaplast all over that, as well as on my vag, and that was my system with helping with the soreness, the stinging, the pain, all of that. And I did that for a good 5 weeks after I had her. Another thing that I did not mention is I had a neck pillow. I did not have like a donut to sit on, so I actually used that neck pillow to sit on. And that helped a ton, especially because after you have your baby, when you sit down, it almost feels like all your organs are gonna fall out of your butt. Like, they just feel like a lot of pressure down there. You heal enough to work out and go to work and stuff, 6 to 8 weeks, but honestly, you're not fully healed up to a year after you have your baby, mentally and physically, just because your organs were, squished up while there was a baby inside of you for a full 9 months. So I wish that's something that someone would have mentioned to me beforehand, or that I had prepared in my mind. I would stick to a schedule. I would talk to your doctor as much as you could, or that you can. I know my doctor was available pretty much all day to talk to, or his nurses were. And so I was calling them back to back if anything happened to me. Make sure that you talk to your child's pediatrician as well, if anything's going on with them. At the end of this video, like I mentioned before, I'm going to be doing my own personal recovery, showing you guys my stomach after delivery. I'm going to be doing a Q&A portion. I did get a few questions on my Instagram on questions from a lot of my friends and other people that want to know more about postpartum or breastfeeding, so I'll be answering those in this next section. Also, I would suggest that make sure that you have a really strong emotional system. I know that I had to be like I was really emotional, like I mentioned, after I had my baby. And if I didn't have someone to tell me that I was doing a good job, being a good mother, and that I was doing a really good job with breastfeeding and all that, I probably would be way more depressed than I actually did get. So make sure that you guys have someone around you that's just positive, and someone around you that tells you that you're doing a great job, because I know that it's really important to have that. So like I mentioned before, I'm going to do the Q&A portion of this video, and then I'll do my postpartum physical afterwards. So first question I have is, how is your body after healing, and how are you feeling emotionally? My body after having a baby, like I mentioned before, I still feel stings and like, you know, cramps every now and then, just because I am breastfeeding, but for the most part my body kind of went back to normal pretty fast. I'm not the way I used to look, which is kind of bothering me, which I can't wait to get back in the gym. But my stomach did go down a lot initially after having my baby, but it wasn't until about 3 weeks after I had her that my stomach was completely down. My butt is huge, which I really need to get on toning that, because it's a lot of extra cellulite, more than I had before, and my boobs are humongous. I was literally a 32C before I had my baby, and I'm pretty sure I'm like a D, and like probably like a 36D, honestly, because my ribs are like stretched out almost. I feel like when I was pregnant, I didn't really get that big when I was pregnant, but the main thing I feel like that stretched the most with me is I stretched this way, and I feel like my rib cage is just wider now. And I did develop postpartum depression and anxiety, but I would honestly do it all over again for my baby. And I feel like even though postpartum does suck, which I did mention, I haven't said anything positive about postpartum, because there is nothing positive about postpartum. Postpartum sucks like shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. Do not put it in your head in any way that postpartum is gonna be okay, because it's not. It's gonna suck. But the only thing that I feel like will make it better is your baby, being around your baby, bonding with your baby, doing skin to skin, spending as much time as you can with your baby, as long as you can, because if I didn't spend as much time as I did with my kid, I feel like I would have been horrible. Looking at your baby's face is gonna just make everything worth it. It's like, everyone talks about the love that you feel after it's a love you'll never experience again, or it's a love that you can never explain. Like, honestly, I can't explain the love that I feel for my daughter. You just have to experience it for yourself. I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but like I mentioned before, I was super emotional after having my baby, but along with the guilt and upset that I was feeling from not sleeping and being honestly starving, because I wasn't eating, because I refused to like leave her alone for more than 2 seconds. Like, it's really hard, especially without a partner. And I know women do it every day, single moms do it every day, which hats off to you. And I am a single mom now, so it's something that I never wanted to happen. But if you are a single parent, it does get better. You just really need to reach out to your family members or anyone that can help you. It's not made to be done alone. I would suggest like just having a very strong connection outside of a partner if you don't have a partner. But if you do, appreciate your partner as much as you can, because it's honestly a really, like, postpartum is so hard, and I honestly wouldn't wish it on anyone. The next question is, does it hurt to breastfeed? Yes, it hurts like shit. Next question, how long do you plan on breastfeeding your baby? Initially, I wanted to breastfeed her for 6 months to a year. I always heard that after 6 months, there's no benefits to breastfeeding, but I spoke with a lactation consultant actually, and they mentioned to me, like, honestly, like, where do the benefits go? Like, they don't just disappear. In my mind, I always wanted to breastfeed until Navi didn't want to breastfeed anymore, until she decides that she doesn't want to. But even when I go back to work, I'm still going to be pumping my milk out and giving it to her and breastfeeding when I'm at home with her. But yeah, I don't know when I'm going to stop breastfeeding. All right, someone else mentioned, how much are you really bleeding, and are the big pads enough? Like I mentioned before, I'm not bleeding anymore, but when I was bleeding, I did need those humongous pads, and I was literally bleeding so much. I had to invest in like more of those big pads, and I was using those for probably 5 weeks straight. The next question is, how was the first poop after delivery? It honestly sucked. It was like, it felt like you are honestly pushing your baby out for a second time, I would suggest taking anything that the doctors give you, stool softeners, milk of magnesia, anything like that, because the first poop sucks. Someone said, what is something that surprised you the most before you had your baby? I would say at the hospital, the epidural did not hurt as much as I thought it was going to. I had so much anxiety before I got the epidural just because I was told that it was going to hurt so bad, but it honestly wasn't that bad. Like I mentioned in my labor and delivery story time, it was a lot more anxiety, but once I got it, it was such a relief. Also, I would say feeling every contraction, like while you're pushing your baby out. I thought when you had your epidural, you don't feel anything, but I still felt my contractions. They just weren't like horrible. It was way less painful, but I knew then to push, but you don't feel like the actual pushing. You don't even feel your baby coming out of you, honestly. You just are told that you're doing a good job, but honestly, you have to think push and do it, but your body doesn't feel the push, if that makes any sense. Someone said, did you drop a lot of your baby weight after you had your baby? I did drop a lot of my weight now, but initially the weight wasn't coming off as fast as I wanted it to. I was being told by my doctor that it was crazy how much weight I was losing so fast, but honestly, you still, like, you don't go back to looking how you looked, which is something I wish I had known. But you have to get used to your new body. You have to get used to your new life. Like, there's a lot of things that you just have to get used to. But I did lose all of my pregnancy weight. I just don't. Like, a lot of things just changed. Like, my hips are wider. Like that little fat that they have right at the bottom of your stomach. My boobs are huge, so like my shirts don't fit the same. Like, it's just, everything just kind of changed, and I don't know how I feel about it. Okay, someone else said, were you scared of labor before you had your baby? Honestly, at the end of my pregnancy, I was so done with being pregnant that I just was ready to have my baby. Being at the hospital was actually super exciting for me until the pain started, and then it was ass. Someone else asked, how has sex been after you had your baby? Haven't had sex. Someone else asked, how was it right after your baby was born? Honestly, right after I had her and they laid her on my chest, it honestly was just an amazing experience, just to, like, a very surreal experience to see your baby. Like, it's one thing to feel them inside of you moving, but to actually see your baby like on your chest and, you know, crying and looking at you, and it's just, I was crying so hard, like hysterically, because I was just so shocked. I will always remember that moment, and I'm so glad that I got it on camera, because I still to this day like watch my labor and delivery video. Someone asked, would you recommend having family or people over to your house after you have your baby? Honestly, I didn't personally. I had friends come over every now and then, like, because a lot of my friends were bringing me stuff, which I'm so grateful for. Someone asked, how is your diet after having your baby? I eat like crap. No one mentioned to me about the postpartum cravings. After having my baby, like, I crave like so much food. I crave sweets. Like, I'm not a sweet person at all, but I crave like cookies and ice cream and just anything unhealthy. Someone asked, did you feel sick or nauseous during labor or even afterwards? During labor, I didn't even mention this in my labor and delivery, but I was given a barf bag because I was super nauseous right before I had to push. What changes are you struggling with your body? I would say my stretch marks in my hips, I already kind of had them before I got pregnant, but they got way darker. We'll show you guys at the end of the video, but I did struggle with that, as well as my stomach. All right, guys, I'm back. But like I mentioned, it honestly is just really hard to see your body go back to how it was before. It's really hard to like see your body differently, especially if, like, for me, I had been thin all my life, so to see like certain rolls and cellulite and stuff, it just was weird for me. And then also being in pain down there and being scared to look at your nether regions, it's honestly like just, it takes a toll on you, especially if you're kind of body conscious, kind of like me. Next question is, how is your relationship with her father? Like I mentioned before, I am a single parent. We co-parent, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, that's fine, I guess. He's doing his thing. So what does the downstairs look like post-birth? I did look at my down there about a week postpartum, and I looked at it with the mirror. It honestly just looks super like swollen. if that's the best way I can describe it. I don't know. This is so awkward. I feel like this is the TMI portion, but it just looks normal, I guess. And that's the end of the questions, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said at the end of this video, please watch the end, and I'll show you guys how my stomach looks after delivery. Okay guys, so here's my waist after having a baby. This is 7 weeks postpartum, and I will show you guys. So as you can see, like, I still have that dark line that was down my stomach when I was pregnant. I don't know when that goes away, but it's still there. And then, like I mentioned before, I have the stretch marks that kind of just appeared after my stomach went down. Like I mentioned, even when I suck in, there's still like that little pooch right there, and that just, I don't know when that goes away. I think I need to work out for that, but yeah, that's my stomach, 7 weeks postpartum. But this is the end of the video. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and share.